Sunday saw one of the bloodiest days of protest in Myanmar since
35 journalists arrested since the February 1st coup when the military seized power.
Hello, I'm Richard Gisbert, and you're at The Listening Post, where we dig into the coverage and look at how news is reported. Here are the stories we're examining this week. Myanmar, the opposition movement that refuses to go away and is providing news material the mainstream media either won't show or cannot show, complete with a soundtrack from the streets. Britain braces for a broadcast news formula born in America. And Russia's Alexei Navalny, locked up in prison, yet still managing to get the word out. It's been almost 7 weeks now since Myanmar's military took power in a coup d'etat, deposing the democratically elected government of Aung San Suu Kyi, with the resistance refusing to give up and thousands on the streets day after day. The crackdown was inevitable, and it has proven to be intense. Sunday, March 14th, saw 74 protesters killed, most of them reportedly gunned down by men in uniform. This regime is undeniably out to curb the news coverage. 5 independent media outlets have had their licenses revoked, their right to broadcast or publish taken away. Dozens of reporters have been arrested. The rolling internet blackouts continue. Anyone with a camera, which means just about anyone with a phone, is considered a threat, and for good reason. Citizen journalists, the images they capture, the stories they tell, provide most of what we know about what is unfolding in Myanmar. And they're proving to be much better at this technology thing than the generals they're out to take down. Our starting point this week is Yangon.
People are still risking their lives. They're going out on the street every single day to protest. And before they leave home, they put their blood types on their arm and the numbers and names of their parents in case they're killed. They're willing to risk their life. They're willing to give everything to fight this dictatorship.
The coup d'etat playbook, if there is such a thing, reads like this. Take power from a democratically elected government. Tell the people you're acting in the country's long-term interest. Take over a few news outlets to control the narrative. Shut down the internet, if that's what it takes. Tolerate a demonstration or two, then put on a show of strength and get on with governing. That's not how it went down in Myanmar.
Right now, the military is miserably failing because over 6 weeks now, the military has not been able to consolidate any of their power. Protesters are not only demonstrating during the day, but also at the night. Despite the killings, the arrests, they continue to come back stronger and try to do everything they can to stop the military.
Their main objective is to get these pictures, send it to the world to show them what's going on. So they might not be a professional journalist, but they are all doing what they can. Everyone who has a phone is a journalist now.
To crush these widespread protests, the regime has arrested more than 2,000 people during nighttime raids into houses. It has also murdered more than 100 unarmed civilians. It no longer looks like a protest crackdown. It is virtually a war against its own people in the broad daylight.
Having deposed Aung San Suu Kyi's government, the junta took more than a month before revoking the broadcast licenses of 5 news outlets, including Myanmar Now and the Democratic Voice of Burma. Those organizations have been doing frontline reporting under difficult conditions, covering the crackdown, feeling its effects. They also play an important editorial role with material provided by citizen journalists, layering those images with context and more information. Burmese reporters spent almost 50 years under military rule before elections in 2011 turned the country into a quasi-democracy. The lessons they learned under that junta have prepared them for this one, as have some new tricks of the trade they picked up during this pandemic.
Luckily, thanks to this time COVID-19, our operations have been pretty much decentralized. So everybody working from remote places, they can upload the stories wherever they are. And in fact, for us, we have been operating from exile for 20 years. We continue to operate fully.
We are not allowed to distribute news via any kind of medium. So this covers all kinds of publishing formats. But despite various challenges, we are still able to gather and publish news. But it will be extremely difficult for all of us if the regime cuts off all the internet and mobile services permanently.
The generals are clearly reluctant to do that, put an indefinite block on internet and mobile communications. The country's 3G phone networks have been completely shut down. Wi-Fi and broadband blocks come and go. The longest lasted 3 days. Now they come mostly at night when the police raids take place. Beyond that, the junta does not want to go. It realizes that since it last held power, the world has changed. And it needs the internet as much as the news media do.
If they shut down the entire internet, then they won't be able to function either. The businesses won't be able to function. And actually, that will become the favor for the protesters, because the protesters today are trying to do everything to stop the economy, to stop all these functions of the government. So now they have to find another way to only restrict certain internet and Wi-Fi.
If they shut down the internet for the whole country, they will suffer, and they will, it will hurt their economy. So they are having an internal debate between wanting to shut down the internet and wanting to stop the flow of information going out. And on the other hand, they want this economy to survive, so they have the money keep coming into their pockets.
Myanmar's military leaders have a stake in the economy that is beyond political. It's personal. They're concerned about businesses in banking, mining, tobacco, and telecoms that the generals took control of the last time they held power and have never relinquished. Shutting down the internet affects their bottom lines too. So the junta has chosen to win hearts and minds with misinformation, internally and externally. It's hired an Israeli arms trader turned lobbyist to spin the story in the West by contending the former civilian government and the demonstrators are pro-China, somehow controlled by Beijing, which is like the pot calling the kettle black. At home, the generals are relying on state-owned media outlets like the global New Light of Myanmar to spread the idea that the protesters killed, many of them shot in the head, were murdered by their own kind. Given the mounting evidence collected and shared by demonstrators and Myanmar's geopolitical realities, both those narratives are getting the traction they deserve, which is almost none.
The military side, they didn't really learn anything new. They've been using the same old technique and lying, demonstrator killing each other by themselves and then blaming on the soldiers. Nobody believes that. They see what's happening in their neighborhoods. And then they watch the government TV channel, that story become a total opposite. And it doesn't work.
The regime wants to maintain good relationships with all their Western partners. This is the reason why the regime has been trying to put forward this China narrative. But nobody is taking that seriously. The coup could not have been launched without the approval from the Chinese political leadership. Burmese military relies a lot on China for getting weapons and also political cover at the United Nations, etc. Given a huge amount of Chinese influence, no military leader in Myanmar can launch a coup without the approval or a green light from Beijing.
And Beijing would not tolerate scenes like these on its own streets. Citizens contesting the narrative, defying an authoritarian government, and challenging the conventional wisdom, the coup d'etat playbook, which says that 7 weeks into a military takeover, the resistance should have faded away by now. It has not. That is the story they are determined to tell, come what may.